Alabama football 2-0 on the year, ladies and gentlemen. You know what time it is. We are hitting you with another game day preview. Touchdown Alabama magazine. Crimson Tide taking on Ole Miss this weekend, 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time kickoff. ESPN will have the call from Vaught Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, Mississippi. I'm yours truly, Stephen Smith.
And I'm Patrick Dowd. But before we dive into the Ole Miss game, Stephen, another huge game from Mac Jones last week against Texas A&M.
I'm telling you, Pat, it is time to put this young man in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy. Now, I know some fans are saying, wait a minute, Stephen, hold on now. Let's wait to see what he does against Georgia. And I understand that. But coming out against A&M, a veteran defensive front, 20 for 27 passing, 435 yards. That's Tua-type numbers right there. 4 touchdowns, only 1 pick. He is looking so fluid, so calm, so confident. When you bring up Mac Jones, Nick Saban is smiling right now.
Absolutely, and confidence is a big factor in his production so far. If you look back at the Texas A&M game, he was making throws that were to wide open receivers, but as well, when players just really weren't there, he was making them happen. He was fingering in to Miller Forrestall, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith on the outside. He's just playing with so much confidence right now. It's so clear that he is fully comfortable in this offense. He knows what he's doing, and he's hitting these guys in stride down the field as well.
He's having a fantastic season thus far. So for everybody out there, listen to me right now. Put Mac Jones into the Heisman conversation. Now, while Alabama's trying to get the run game going more, and we'll get to that later on, Pat, at wide receiver, what a career day for both Jalen Waddle and John Mechie against Texas A&M. I mean, Jalen Waddle just went stupid. 5 catches, $142, 1 touchdown. But John Mechie, people talk about, Alabama's got Waddle, it's got Smitty, but would it ever have a third guy to really pop? John Mechie answered the bell on last week. 5 catches, $181, 2 touchdowns. Tide fans are saying, we got to circle who this number 8 kid is, and it's John Mechie. Both guys, Waddle and Mechie, big performance from both guys.
Well, look, in terms of Mechie, earlier in the year I said I need to see a little bit more before I call him the Canadian Calvin Ridley. And last Saturday, that was pretty impressive from him. Over 180 yards, multiple huge touchdowns. This guy's ready now. He's into the offense. He's that number 3 guy, and he's just going to make Alabama that much more dangerous on offense. And Jalen Waddle, talk about another guy who's going to get in the Heisman race. I don't think he's in terms of the odds, in terms of Vegas. I know Mac Jones is, but come on.
Now, there are some outlets, Pat, that have Waddle in there. I know there are a couple of media pundits that have Waddle in there, but like you mentioned, Alabama's got 2 or 3 guys that can very much so be considered being in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy. But flipping this, Pat, from offense to defense, the defense is showing some signs of improvement under Pete Golding, his second full year in being the full-time DC. But there's still some areas that need to be cleaned up. Number 1, keying in on the running back coming out the backfield. This is the second straight week that Alabama losing sight of the running back. Against Missouri, it was Tyler Beatty. Against Texas A&M, it was Anaya Smith. So finding out where the running back is, that communication, and then also being able to finish tackles. There's still some moments where, Bama's got the big hitters, but the guys have to wrap up and finish the play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think finishing tackles is a big thing. Not only keying the running backs out of the backfield as well, but finishing the tackles. Also, another thing I want to see from this defense is finish tackles in the backfield in terms of sacking the quarterback. We see flashes of Will Anderson, Chris Allen getting back there, and even stunts up front from Fedarian Mathis and Christian Barmore, who's back healthy. They show flashes of really getting back there and being that dominant front that they used to be. They just got to bring guys down at this point.
They got to finish the play. And Brian Ray talked about it, throughout this season so
Another
far.
Guy's back healthy.
Another guy's back healthy. He's talked about it. Freddie Roach in here as the defensive line coach. This defensive front, they want to get back to being physical, being fierce, getting those sacks, finishing the play. So another week of practice to get this group prepared for what it can face here with the Ole Miss Rebels. One positive thing, though, from this defense, it did force 2 turnovers. Daniel Wright, huge pick 6 last week, big for his confidence, and the job of Malachi Moore, of a true freshman, playing in that nickel position, that star role, got his first pick of his career. But as we look at Ole Miss, and prior to talking about the Rebels here, Pat, there's some serious weather going on right now. Hurricane Delta that is a Category 4 at this point. It has made landfall in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, it's projected to make a sharp north curve and impact southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi between Friday and Saturday. The SEC, as you know, Pat, has been watching this, monitoring this, wondering, should we postpone the game? Should we move it between Friday of this week or Sunday of this week or some other time? But hopefully it can be a situation where we can have the football game. But as of right now, Pat, everybody is monitoring what is going on here in relation to the hurricane.
Well, yeah, first and foremost, I hope everyone who's taken the head of the storm straight on is going to be okay, follow the protocols, be safe, come out of this thing okay. But in terms of the football game, like you said, they have options of moving the game to Friday, Sunday, and November 7th is another day down the line where both teams have an open week. The only thing about that day is that it was predetermined, that was pre-scheduled for any sort of COVID delays during the season. So if anything like that were to happen, they would not have that day down the line. So it's a big decision the conference has to make. Hopefully the storm misses them. Hopefully it's just bad rain. So hopefully we get to play football.
Absolutely. So now, as we get into the Alabama-Ole Miss conversation, Ole Miss starting them off on the defensive side of the football. I know it lost, of course, Freddie Roach, the defensive line coach who's now at Alabama. But, Pat, Ole Miss still tends to have some pretty solid dudes on that side of the football.
Well, they used to. I'm not sure how many of those guys are there anymore because, just looking at that game last week against Kentucky, it was rough up front, especially in the run game. They let up over 400 rushing yards against Kentucky.
Are you kidding me?
7.3 yards per carry. And especially, the rain might be a factor, and Alabama is going to run the football, that's the recipe for disaster for Ole Miss.
And with that game being at home, they're at Bart-Hemingway Stadium. Ole Miss gave up 40 points to Kentucky last week, so this week definitely Alabama looking to run the football, especially after some comments from Landon Dickerson in player interviews. He feels like this group can line up, go toe-to-toe with Ole Miss and be able to run the football. Now, the Rebels are giving up between 30 and 50 pounds on their defensive line to Alabama's offensive line. But offensively for the Rebels, Lane Kiffin's going to have some creativity here in this matchup. First and foremost, they got a running back in Jerrion Ely who's really good. Some information on Ely for just a moment here, folks, is in the 2019 recruiting cycle, Alabama was high on Trey Sanders out of Florida, IMG Academy, but the Tide didn't quite know if Trey would qualify academically. So while that was coming down to the wire, late in the 2019 cycle, Alabama turned its attention to looking at Jerrion Ely, possibly seeing could it pull Ely if Trey Sanders did not qualify academically. Sanders was able to qualify. Of course, Ely goes to Ole Miss, but the young man really good back in between the tackles, bouncing plays outside. Really good pass catcher. Last year, Ely 20 catches, 127 yards, a touchdown. This year, 4 receptions for 49 yards. At receiver, the Rebels have Elijah Moore. Really good wideout right there. And a guy that Nick Saban talked about. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's got a very good frame, very compact, can get up and down the field, gets in and out of his route. So that's a guy that Lane Kiffin will look to get the ball into. But at quarterback, Pat, prior to the season, I'm thinking it's got to be John Rice Plumlee. I'm thinking it's got to be that kid. But Matt Corral has come on out of nowhere. He's playing tremendous ball right now, completing 76.7% of his throws. He's got 7 touchdowns, just 1 pick. So while defensively, Ole Miss has got some holes to plug up, to clean up, and that will come in recruiting. Offensively, Pat, this is still under Lane Kiffin in his first year, some creative dudes on offense.
And look, Alabama's familiar with Lane Kiffin. He was the offensive coordinator here a couple years back. And, they're going to be creative. They're going to get people out in space and get them the ball. And, like the running backs that you mentioned, Lane Kiffin's going to watch the tape against Missouri and Texas A&M, seeing what worked for their offenses against Alabama. So I would expect that to be utilized, but like you said, they always have talent on the outside in terms of receivers. Ole Miss is known for that.
The thing for Alabama this week is going to be, as we both talked about, wrapping up and making tackles, especially against an Ole Miss team under Lane Kiffin.
Especially in the rain.
Absolutely. When you're playing against a team that loves the yards after contact, that love the yards after the catch, being able to fundamentally break down. I know you're going to hit, but break down, bring your arms, wrap up, and finish the play accordingly. But as we look at the line here on this game, Pat, the line for the Missouri game for Alabama was 27, did not cover. The line on the Texas A&M game was, I believe, 21, if I'm not mistaken. Alabama did cover that one. Now, the line on this game for Ole Miss is looking like, what, 23?
Yeah, 23 and a half, around there. I think Alabama will cover that, even if it rains, because just look at Ole Miss's run defense. They're going to give up a lot of yards to this offensive line that's hungry to perform with Najee Harris back there. So I think 23 and a half is going to hit on Saturday. And also another thing to look out for is the over. Set at 70. That might be another one that does hit just because these offenses are just so high-powered.
Now, of course, the one thing is being able to have the wet ball drill, keeping the ball dry, especially in the passing game and the running game. Of course, both coaches will tell the backs, hold the ball high and tight, making sure that no fumbles taking place there on the field. But, folks, as always, Alabama, Ole Miss this weekend, this Saturday, hopefully 5 p.m. Central Time kickoff. ESPN will have the call as the game will be in Oxford, Mississippi, Vaught Hemingway Stadium. For all of us here at Touchdown Alabama Magazine, I'm Stephen M. Smith.
And I'm Patrick Dowd.
And, baby, we'll see you guys next week.